A coffee chat is a quick, informal conversation about someone's career journey. It's a great way to get to know the people you work with or want to work with and learn more nuanced information about their industry and their career path. Here's some do's and don'ts for setting up your next coffee chat. Definitely do your research beforehand. Regardless of who you're meeting with, definitely look them up on LinkedIn, research any articles or maybe interviews on our podcast they've done on YouTube, and make sure you come prepared with some idea of the questions you want to ask them. And they should be specific. Don't be general. You can ask, the basics, right? What was your career path like? Any advice for someone trying to break into the industry maybe, but also come prepared with specific questions that are coming out of the research you're doing on that individual. Do dress up as well. Odds are you're going to be having this conversation with this person during their workday. So they're going to come dressed however is normal for their profession, and you should too. Do some research beforehand on the typical dress that people wear in that industry, and then come and match that style when you meet with this person. This will do two things. One, it will subconsciously communicate to them that you belong in that industry, since you will somewhat match the level of professionalism that they have. And two, you will feel nice if you look nice, and that is proven. So show up looking your best. And also, if you're going to be doing a virtual meet and greet instead, make sure your background isn't too distracting. And if it will be, get a virtual one instead. And certainly follow up with the person after you have the conversation. A good thing to do that I always do after I have a coffee chat is to use that individual as a guide for future conversations. In your email or message to them after your conversation, I always say something like, given our conversation, who would you recommend I speak to next to continue to learn more about this industry? Sending something like that will then put the onus on them to recommend to you a couple folks in their network or in their industry that they recommend you talk to. It's a great way to get introduced to someone and start chaining together your network by leaning on friends of friends. Do not ask for a job or internship. This is an informal informational session. It is not an interview, and it's not the time or place to really be asking for that kind of thing. Trust me, don't ask for it. You also don't want to force them into a defensive position in the conversation. Now, this one can be a little tough to navigate in the room, but you don't want to come prepared with questions that are hard-hitting or that seek to expose them or their industry. It's supposed to feel like a friendly, warm conversation that ends up connecting the two of you afterwards. You don't have to go for a Pulitzer here and ask them some hard-hitting question that's just going to make them really get defensive and clam up, and it's really going to close off the path of conversation for you. And lastly, don't try to force the conversation. The fact of the matter is people are busy. And so every single coffee chat you have, you're not always going to get a person who is super engaged or involved in that conversation. Trust me, I've been there. If that happens to you, still thank them for their time, and then maybe set up another session where you can get them on a better day or maybe in a better mood. But just know that every single coffee chat won't be the best conversation of your life, which is why it's also crucial at the end of all these conversations to get recommendations on who you should be talking to next.